So here's an introduction how to test your schematic entry. Question 13, how this will be tested. And to test a schematic logic circuit like this, what I have to do is I have to kind of put all different combinations on the A, B, C and D, and I have to check that for each of the combination I have the right value of the output of F. So to do this, what I have to do is to write something called a test bench that will set up all these different combinations. Yes. Another very interesting thing here is that if I'm going to simulate the system, I will press this little thing and it goes into simulation. This will kind of like change the full setup of the development system, so I will need to be aware if I'm in implementation mode or in simulation mode. I'll have to go back to implementation mode when I have to generate my bit file, etc. So now I'm going to simulation, and I will create a new test bench. So this is a new source I'll create me, and I will choose a VHDL test bench. This will test my schematic, so I will call this test schematic Q13. Next, this will ask me what do I want to test, and I want to test this exact schematic. So next and finish. This will generate me a VHDL file. So what is VHDL? VHDL is a text entry thing where you can enter schematics or test benches or other things instead of using schematic entry. So looking into this, I can see that something here looks like a text version of what I have already entered as a schematic thing. So I have A, B, C and D being inputs, and I have F being output. This looks very much like my actual schematic here. Going back to my test bench, as you are not going to learn VHDL coding right now, I will actually delete all of this. Something like delete, and there it is, very empty. So what you have to do is you have to go into the learning system, and you have to browse your way to the test bench that is available for you, and copy this piece of code. Goes like copy, and then go back to the development system and paste what you found into this. So there it is. Looking at my test bench once again, not going into too much details, I will see down here something called the user defined section, and I'll see that I have a test variable given the value of 0000, and then I have the value of the variable put into A and B and C and D, meaning A will be 0, B will be 0, C and D will be 0. Then what will happen is the system will wait for 10 nanoseconds to give the designer possibility to look if the output is appropriate before setting up the next variable and waiting and setting up and waiting. So this is how a test bench looks. To check if this behaves as I want it to, first I'll press or mark the test bench over here, and I can see I have different options down here. If this is closed, I'll have to open it, and I can see I can do two things. I can check the syntax of my test bench, which will be the fastest part. I'll do that. It asks me if I want to save. Yes, I do that, and I got an OK here. If this doesn't work, I can't go on. But now that it works, I can try to run this simulation. So double clicking will start up the simulation system, which is a program on its own. and this program will display what I have just tested. There's a button here that goes zoom to full view, and here is the output of what I've reached. I might drag my cursor to this end, and I might zoom a bit into this, and what I see is the different inputs A, B, C and D, and the actual output. So what you have to do as designers is to check the values of this and that. When I'm moving the cursor, I can see the values are changing according to the timing of the cursor. If I move to this position, I can see here's the first 1 on the F. This 1 should reflect a 1 on C and the other being 0. So I should go and test, is this a right value? So a 1 on the 0 and the rest being 0. So a 1 on C and the rest being 0. So I'll go and test. It's here, 1 on C. Okay, with 1 on C, I have a 1 on my input of my OR, and I have a 1 on this point, the output of the OR. With a 0 on the D, I have a 1 on the other side of the AND gate, and I will have a 1 on the F. So this instance is okay. And what you will have to do is you have to check all of the instances. Here I can see I also have like the test variable having is shown here. The test variable is behind the actual inputs of A, B, C and D. If I don't want to see it, I can choose delete and it will go away from the picture, which may be a bit clearer to me. So that was that for today, and happy coding.